you instinctively put your hands down, bent my wrist back, and was a minor wrist injury, but that was the catalyst to get me thinking, if I can't use my hands, I can't work. If I can't work, how are we going to have money coming in?
So, you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Catani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcatani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Catani, and I am joined today by Dr. Jeff Anzalone. Dr. Jeff Anzalone is a full-time practicing periodontist in the great state of Louisiana, author and founder of DebtFreeDoctor.com. His focus is on helping doctors and other high-income professionals create passive income from real estate so that they can stop trading their time for money. Dr. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Likewise, grateful to have you. Take us back to the beginning here. You're obviously still full-time practicing. Kind of bring us back. When did you discover real estate and the power, and what's led you to where you're at now?
Sure. I think it all started, the process started when shortly before I finished my training, about 2 weeks before I was supposed to come back to my hometown in Louisiana to join a group practice, the deal got taken off the table. And it kind of left us, if you've gone to medical school, dental school, law school, you learn how to do your trade, but you don't learn anything about, starting a practice or a business, which kind of doesn't make sense. But anyway, so that was the worst part for me, having a 2-month-old, $300,000 student loan debt. We'd already bought a house, interest only, because the banker knew the group I was going in with. So he's like, yeah, we'll make it work out. So I had all this debt, yet no patience, and didn't have a clue, what to do, whatever. So the reason I tell you that is because that really got me retracted, I guess, my mindset back to how I was raised, more of that scarcity, fear type mentality. Things can be taken away from you at once. So you got to hold on to it, real tight. So, I was raised in, blue collar family, they always provided, but it was, we can't afford that, or we can't go there on vacation. It costs too much. So always hearing about, money is scarce. So that really, that event that happened to me really set me back, and it took a long time to get out of. The only really person I knew at that time was Dave Ramsey. So I just started walking through the different baby steps. I'd been listening to him on the radio, read his books. Took about 7.5 years to go through the whole process of becoming debt free. We paid off that house. Then it was kind of like, you go for 7 years of trying to accomplish this goal. You get there and it's like, okay, it's like, now what? It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, because I guess his main target audience is a general kind of the masses, to where they not so much entrepreneurial spirit. It's like, hey, get out of debt and just, work your job until you're 70, 401k, the typical millionaire next door. And that's how God didn't wire me like that. And that's just not how I am. So it took a snow skiing accident. I know you're in Utah. Took a snow skiing accident in Beaver Creek, Colorado. My wife and I, we got off the lift, started skiing, and those ski schools, those kids, how they're all single file line. Well, one kid broke away, cut in front of me. I swerved. When I fell, you instinctively put your hands down, bent my wrist back, and was a minor wrist injury, but that was the catalyst to get me thinking, if I can't use my hands, I can't work. If I can't work, how are we going to have money coming in? And I knew at that time I was operating in a very risky environment because it was, all on my hands in order to provide for the family, but didn't know where to start, didn't know what to do. So I started looking online and studying really successful people. And I noticed two main things that really helped guide me. Number one, the majority of the millionaires that were very successful had real estate in their portfolio. Number two, the millionaires averaged 3 to 7 streams of income. And back then I only had one, from the practice. So that really helped me, narrow down to, hey, I need to get extra streams of income from real estate. Back then I thought I had to go buy a single family home, duplex, self-storage unit, try to market it, try to keep it filled, when people knocked holes in the wall, repair them, kick them out, all that good stuff. I had no idea that there was all these other options until I went to a meeting, I think 2014 in Dallas, that I thought I was going to learn. It was a by dentist for dentist. I thought I was going to learn about real estate, how to be an active investor, but yet it was all these different ways that I can invest passively. And that led me down to start doing it, starting the blog, teaching people how to do it, learning as I go, now the YouTube channel, and then here we are.
Wow, that's awesome. What a fascinating story, for sure, because, you kind of took a kind of like a roller coaster there, right? You did the Dave Ramsey thing. You're like, okay, well, this actually isn't working. And then now you're hearing the passive income. And I'm sure there are plenty of people in your field who feel the exact same way. So what's kind of the initial conversation like in terms of, kind of helping change that mindset to them understanding, the passive side and creating that passive stream of income?
I think I just took literally 30 minutes ago, I just took a new orthodontist to lunch that started practicing here and started talking about some of this type of stuff that I do and teach. And once I drew out that cash flow quadrant from Kiyosaki, and you figure out how we're really making money, we're either, whether you're an employee or you're self-employed, being me as a self-employed practitioner, that person was a self-employed, just bought a practice. At that, when I started this practice, I thought that's the quote, the American dream. I own my own business. I can hire, I can fire, I write the checks. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. But yet, if I'm not here, I'm not making money. And that once you start teaching people, it's not about so much how much you make, because we're always taught make more, work more. We need more new patients. We need to do this or that. But it's how we make it, in my opinion, is as important as how much you make. So getting them to think about how they're making their money is a really big mindset shift that I think gets them on the track to whether or not they want to be really successful or not.
And what does that look like in terms of how they make their money?
Well, how typically how they're usually making money is they're either an employee working for somebody. They have security. Yes, they have some benefits, maybe a 401k, maybe health benefits, but yet they're still, but the thing is they get their taxes taken out. So they pay a lot of taxes and they don't get many deductions. Being self-employed, same thing. We're pretty much an employee, because if we're not there, we're not making money. We're paying even more taxes because we're having to pay, self-employment tax. Typically, we have to, with an employee, they can just clock in and clock out. Well, you own your own business or practice. You usually got to get here early, do your administrative stuff, stay late. So you're actually spending more time trading time for money. And so really focusing on getting to the other side of the quadrant, which whether you're a business owner, where you have systems in place to where I got a friend of mine that owns a gym here, and he can go month, 2 months, 6 months on vacation if he wants to. The gym's still cranking out, making money. There's people working for him. There's a system. Or what I'm aspiring to do is get into that I or investor quadrant. That's what I'm teaching people to focus on. Continue to get good at what you do. If you're a dentist or a physician or whatever, you spend a lot of time, money, and energy to get your degree. If you're an accountant, if you're an engineer, if you're an attorney, you spend a lot of time and maybe you went into debt. Well, once you start taking your time away from your biggest wealth building tool, your trade, your job, your income suffers. And if you want to try to start doing active income, active investing, or buying stuff, well, you're either going to take time away from your business, which is going to decrease your productivity, or you're going to take time away from your family, or both. So the thing that I like to do and teach is focus on what you're best at, get good at it, make more money, and the more money you can make, the more you can invest in cash flowing assets that will eventually replace your active income, and you're free.
Absolutely. I love that mindset so much. And I have the same mindset, and my mentors have taught me the same thing, right? Just sort of who, not how, focusing, like you said, on your skill, being the best at that, and then, delegating the admin work and delegating some of that. But you mentioned, which a lot of medical professionals have said before, you don't learn the business side of things, when you're going through that. So what was a key for you in learning how, learning the business side of things and understanding, some of that stuff?
Well, I learned how to operate a business from the person that I worked under when I first got out for the first 2 years. And I think now, I've got two teenagers, and my opinion now regarding college is, if you don't have to go to college, like if you want to be a physician or dentist or attorney or something like that, you have to go to college to get that degree. Well, that's, if you have a specific path that, hey, I want to do that, or I have a specific job or career path, which I have to have a degree, or I have to have a degree and then something, well, then that's one thing. But if you're just kind of like, I don't really know what I want to do, or don't really want to do anything like that, then I don't recommend going to college. It's just at this point now, it's just a waste of money. If, instead go figure out what you want to do, go work for some different people, go try out different things. And then if you come across something, let's say it's like real estate or, something like that, well, then go work for somebody, learn from them. Plus you're getting paid, and just learn what they're doing. I spend, 20, 25 hours a week working on the real estate side, kind of a side business, and everything that I learn, I just have looked at what other people have done. Why reinvent the wheel? Why try to do that? If you start a website, you look at other people's websites. Well, you take stuff from that, you sign up for their stuff, you get their emails, you get other people's emails, and then you create your own email sequence. And it's just you don't have to be the new innovator. You just take stuff, put your personality, your twist in it, and that's pretty much it. And you really don't have to pay for anything. Everything's free. It's just people won't take the time to do it. And that's why there's the 99%, and that's why there's the 1%, in my opinion.
Gosh, I love that so much. My girlfriend and I took my younger cousin out. He's 22, and his parents are harping on him to finish college, but he doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't think he's going to finish. I never finished. It, of course, didn't matter, because, like you said, it really doesn't, unless you're going into something where it's required medical, law, engineering, certainly, and so I love kind of seeing that mindset. And, I was telling him, I was like, listen, go try all these different things, figure out what you want to do. You don't have to know at 22, what your life plan is. You just need to go, and you need to work and work hard, but go try a bunch of different things. Don't be afraid to fail. And I think that's one big thing is people are afraid to mess up and fail and how they're going to look. And once you kind of shift your mindset away from that and realize people aren't really paying as close attention as you think, really doesn't matter that much. So
I tell them get good at marketing, sales, and customer service. If you're good at that, you can succeed at anything. I mean, you look at the really successful people, especially the billionaires, they always have some sort of backstory. Oh yeah, well, I got into sales when I was a teen, or I started my own, looking back, I started a lawn service at 12, and it grew and grew and grew. And before I went to dental school, I gave it to my brother. But looking back, I just thought, hey, I'm just mowing 35, 40 yards a week. But I started looking at it. Well, I had to go and find the yards. I had to market myself. I had to keep a schedule. I had to, so I learned a lot of skills. I didn't even realize I was learning along the way. But, keeping books, collecting money. I mean, that's all about, if you want to start your own business or practice or whatever, you've got to learn those things. And I think that for kids, that's one of the best things. Both my kids play tennis. Well, over the summer, and I'm encouraging them to give lessons, and they're just thinking, okay, I'm going to make, so much an hour, but they don't realize how they're going to have to market themselves. They're going to have to keep, same thing. They're going to keep books. They're going to have to keep a schedule. There's all different parts and pieces just from them going through being successful, but having failures, and then figuring out how next summer, how they could be better. So I encourage, if you have kids, I encourage parents to really try to get them involved with starting their own business. Or if they just going to want to work for somebody, then that may be a good thing, because then they may realize, I want to set my own schedule and I want to make, what I want to make instead of what somebody else is telling me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's invaluable lessons, and at that age, you typically aren't going to understand why it's a necessary thing. But then you get to this stage and you look back and you're like, I'm so glad my dad made me do that. And that's what I told my cousin. I said, honestly, I suggest going into sales, even if you end up not liking it, because then you learn how to communicate with people effectively, which is a very, very valuable skill. So let's kind of talk about now the real estate side of things. Um, what asset class are you in? Are you still just passive, or have you gone on to the active side? Kind of talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm still a passive investor. I do work with some groups that will allow me to, if they need investors, I help, bring some of the investors. I'm investing in deals either way. So if they have some openings, I kind of tell other people about it, and they'll, legally make the structure to where I'm like a co-general partner with them. But I also do other things like the investor relations, emails, updates. I'm educating. So I'm doing other stuff besides just bringing investors to those deals. But most of the stuff that I do is passive. Multifamily. Started doing some self-storage this year. I really wanted to get into mobile home parks, so I found a mentor that's actually in Louisiana. I spent the day with him 2 months ago. We looked at some of his mobile home parks. Plus, we went to a couple of RV parks, and I kind of watched him wheel and deal with them. And we went to one, and I saw how he did it. So we went to the second one, and I took over and I did it just from learning. So it doesn't take that much. I mean, it's not that hard to do, but any kid could have done it. But that was an invaluable learning experience for me.
Awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, I love embracing the power of a mentor, you know what I mean? Because like you said, find someone who's doing what you want to do and learn from them. And that's the best way. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just put your own little twist on it. We're all a
Yep.
little different. And I mean, it's a tried and true method, right? There's no need to come in here and, you know, I don't really believe in industry secrets. Now, you may have something that works differently, and it might work well for you, but doesn't, necessarily work for someone else. But I'm also a huge fan of self-storage. What about that kind of caught your attention?
The self-storage, I think, well, I have some friends, local friends, that they have some self-storage, and we're pretty saturated in our area. But they've all told me, they're like, it's like you look up and somebody's building new self-storage, and they're like, man, are they crazy? And then the next thing you know, they have a waiting list. And it's just like people, I don't think with the way that people are buying stuff, it's so easy online, and they're just wanting, especially since the pandemic, had all these people giving all this money, and all they had to do, they couldn't work, so they sat at home and they spent them a lot of money. So I think that really helped take off, that and the RVs. They got tired of being at home, cooped up. They got tired of looking at their 401k drop, took money out, bought an RV. Now they're enjoying themselves. So those two asset classes, that was one of the reasons why I was looking at it. Plus, you got people like Warren Buffett that know what they're doing, know how to invest. They're heavily getting into those classes too. So if it's good for them, why not, look into it a little bit.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. A little bit lower barrier to entry as well, typically than multifamily, especially large
Hmm.
multifamily, as well as about 70% are still, owner occupied, mom and pop, if you want to call it. So definitely a very awesome opportunity to get in. And, you don't necessarily need a massive portfolio, but you can also go that route, which I love. And so what markets do you pay most attention to?
Mostly in the landlord friendly states, in the South and Southeast, the North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, Alabama. And I got into a self-storage deal 3 months ago in Missouri. Just got one in Alabama, and looking to do a convert a warehouse into some climate controlled in Texas.
Wow, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, so that's like what, like an old big box kind of
Yeah,
conversion.
I think there's 20,000 square feet of existing self storage, and then we have a opportunity for 80,000 more square feet that's right next to it. So it's pretty big conversion deal for sure. But the area that we're looking at, the population growth's like 10 or 11%. So it's crazy
Wow.
growing. Yeah,
Holy
it's
cow.
it's unbelievable. So it's kind of almost like a no brainer.
Absolutely. And what's been your process? Obviously, you're for fine now. Sounds like you found your main operating group. So in the beginning, what was your process like, for how do you help passive investors sort of vet and understand who and decide who they should work with?
Well, I'm doing all the work for myself, and then if they want to tag along, well, I give them all the information about the deals and about the sponsor groups, because I want everybody to educate themselves. And unlike when you go to a financial advisor, they just set up a 401k for you, and you just start blindly handing them money. You get these statements in, you don't know if you're making money, if you're not making money, what sort of the fees are involved. But I'm really big on giving them all the information that I'm using to process it. Most of the time, they don't read all of it. Actually, none. There's hardly anybody that reads all of it. Most of the time, they don't read any of it. But at least they have it. They'll go through some of the stuff initially, and then when they're kind of comfortable with it, you don't have to be as picky. But took a lot of time and effort early on to find the groups to work with. And now I'm a lot more, there's so many new groups out there that I'm a lot more picky of who I'm dealing with. So, because I have my reputation to put on the line to recommend people to other people. So, I take a lot of pride in that.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, it's so important. In the beginning, like we're somewhere in that I love reading all of it, right? And certainly there are people who I talk to who just, follow your lead, right? You've done the work, which is, why we're out there, right? Like, you're a busy professional. You don't want to read all this whole entire OM or PPM or whatever it is, but I've read it. I'm investing as well. Here's my track record. Here's why I know what I'm talking about. And, people will follow your lead and your network and things like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we kind of wind down here, I've got 5 questions I ask all of my guests, the final 5. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
That's a good question. I don't think it was like a specific piece of advice, but I look at the different mentors that I have and that I've had, and they've all caused me to expand my thinking. Basically, my thinking was too small, or I'm setting goals too small. And once you start looking at things in a different lens or setting bigger goals, it immediately causes you to think differently. So, for instance, if you want to lose 5 pounds, well, you're going to be thinking about, oh, I can just cut out the M&Ms every night or the ice cream or whatever. But if you go, okay, I want you to lose 50 pounds in the same amount of time, then you're going to think, oh man, I gotta do some things differently. So it's kind of like that.
Awesome. I love it. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Well, 2 things. Number one, I can help patients with whatever problems that they're having, but it's also allowed me to connect with other doctors that are facing signs of burnout, or, they feel stuck, and really saying, hey, look, I'm over here replacing my income with passive income. This is my process. And they really like, I make cool connections literally every week with people, and that really keeps me going with doing this. So I'm really excited to keep growing that side of the business.
Awesome. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
I would probably say the cash flow quadrant. How like we talked about before, how we're making money, and really focused on that mindset shift.
I love it. Great one. All of his books are the purple Bibles, as they call them,
Yeah.
just kind of I think probably 80% of my guests have all
Mm-hmm.
somewhere that's either they started there or it was part of their journey. For
What's
sure.
funny about that is, in 1996, I was a senior in college and I read The Millionaire Next Door. 1 year later, 1997, Rich Dad Poor Dad came out. Well, I didn't read that at that time, but it's just funny that only 1 year apart, 2 of the most successful financial books came out, and there are just on 2 totally different opposite, sides of the spectrum. One is the typical works to your 70 401k, be real frugal, scrimp and save, and the millionaire next door. And then you've got the Kiyosaki on the other end is, go leverage, go get some good debt, really focus on passive income. So that's pretty crazy that just during that short time period, those 2 books came out.
Yeah, it is very, very fascinating for sure. 2 very different concepts, which is wild to see it. And listen, both one might be better for another person for sure. We're obviously biased towards the latter of those 2, but I think if more people could understand why, the difference between good debt and bad debt, and understand what that leverage can do for you, I think, and you're starting to just see that, right? More access to information. People are
Mm-hmm.
starting to understand that power more. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think it would be really cool if you could just jump off a building and just fly everywhere, not have to deal with traffic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Cool. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
I've got a passive income guide. They can go to debtfreedr.com/free guide. And it's a little bit about what we talked about today, my journey, how to get started with passive income creation, and a couple examples in there about what the power of passive income can do with some specific numbers too.
Awesome. I love it. Dr. Jeff, thank you so much for all of your insight and all of your time.
Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, you know it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.